Well, hello, friends. I do hope you're having a great day today. I pray that you are trusting God for great things all day long today. It's Tuesday now, and it's time for another edition of Take 5. And you know what we're talking about. We're still dealing with the subject of faith. I kind of told you we were going to change it, but I think God had other plans for us, and I think we just will do well to follow the plan that He has. We've talked about a whole lot of people that the writer of Hebrews singled out and named, and we went into the Old Testament and we've learned about their life and studied what we could so that we could see how we connect with them. And so that's why I think it's so important to just keep doing what we're doing and keep talking about the rest of these that are mentioned here in Hebrews 11. Now we're at verse 32 where the author compiles a lot of names together, and he says this. He says, "What more shall I say? For time would fail me to tell of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, and the prophets." Now, I said that I was just going to blow through this, but I just felt the Lord just wanted us to hold up and talk about these guys as well, because we need to find every connection we can with the men and women of Scripture, and that way we can understand how this faith applies to us. Now, when I say these names, Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, some of you know who they are, and you might even remember the story of how things may have played out, or what you've heard in a Sunday school lesson, a Bible class, or through a sermon somewhere along the way. But the facts of the things that happen, that's what we need, because it's in the facts and the minute details of the story is where we find ourselves. So we're just going to take these guys over the next few weeks and we're going to talk about them and just stay on this just as long as God sees fit. Now, the first one in the list was Gideon. And so I want us to spend the rest of the week talking about Gideon and finding ourselves in him and seeing what God did through him as Gideon put his faith in God. If I were to subtitle this thing, I would subtitle it Gideon's 300. Less is always more by faith. And that should say something to you right there, because in your life and in mine, how many times have we always had to deal with less, but somehow when we trust God with less, He always makes it more? Well, Gideon found that out through a life-threatening battle that he was involved in with 3 different nations. He found that out, and so we're gonna try to find ourselves in this story the rest of the week. Now, God had pulled His hand off of Israel, His hand of protection and blessing, because once they got into the promised land, they began to worship the gods of all of those Canaanite people that were there. And so God said, you know what, if you're going to worship some other God than me, I'm going to take my hand off of you. And He did. And as soon as God took His hand off of him, the Midianites, the Amalekites, and the Ishmaelites all got together and began to come down hard on Israel, really putting them in dire straits. These 3 nations would get together and they would allow Israel to sow their fields, and then these 3 nations would show up around harvest time, and they wouldn't come just with people and with soldiers. They would come with their cattle, they would come with their tents, they would come with their camels. They would pitch their tents wherever they pleased in Israel's territory. They would roam in armed parties all over the whole country and spread terror in every direction. And the farmers of Israel, instead of combining together in self-defense, fled to the hills or sheltered themselves in caves and in dens in the mountains there, leaving their produce to these robbers who would destroy the increase of the earth and carried off their cattle, did not leave sheep, oxen, or donkey, nor any kind of sustenance for Israel at all. After these 3 nations plundered everything, they would withdraw and go back to their respective lands until the following season. Then they'd come up again out of the desert, after the seed had been sown and the crops were ready and the harvest was near, and they renew their destruction all over again. Isn't that the way the devil works though, friend? He always works season after season after season. You feel like you get a little reprieve and then, here he comes again. And you feel like you get a little reprieve and then, here comes trouble again. Well, he didn't just start that with you. He's been doing that as long as he's been the devil and harassing mankind on this earth. For 7 successive years, these 3 nations committed these ravages against Israel. Ravages that are really more terrible than war itself. And it left Israel being greatly impoverished. Judges chapter 6 verse 6 says, greatly impoverished. And as they were impoverished, they were utterly disheartened as well. So they cried out to the Lord. And God responded, but he told them why this had happened. It was because of their idolatry, but he had a plan to deliver them. And he spoke to a man named Gideon. I want to read a couple of verses to you real quick. It said, the angel of the Lord came and sat under the terebinth tree at Ophrah that belonged to Joash, while his son Gideon was beating out wheat in the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And he was doing that so that he could feed his family there, because he knew if the Midianites saw him doing that, they would come and take what little food he had and probably even kill him. The angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon and said, the Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor. Now, I thought that was kind of strange. Mighty man of valor. That's a weird name to call a man that's hiding from his enemies. But remember, Gideon's not just hiding from his enemies. He's actually rebelling against the Midianites to provide for his family. And he's just doing it under cover of darkness so that, he's not killed, because he's no good to his family if they kill him, right? And so God says, mighty man of valor, I'm here to use you. And Gideon said to him, and this is where I think we find ourselves. Gideon said, please, my Lord, if you're with us, then why has all this happened? Where are all the wonderful deeds that our fathers told us about? And did you not bring us up out of Egypt only now to allow us to be taken into the hand of Midian? He asked the same 3 questions that every one of us have asked somewhere along the way. Number 1, if God's with us, why does this keep happening? You ever feel that way? Yeah, you do, and I do, and everybody else has somewhere along the way. If God is with us, why is this happening? Why did this person die? Why did I lose the job? Why did I get sick? Why is my child doing this? Everybody living that has served God has asked that. Secondly, he said, I've heard about the great things that you've done. I've read about it. I've saw it on TV. I've seen the great things that you've done, but where is it now? Let me tell you something, friend. Times may change. People may change. Traditions may change, but God never changes. What he was able to do, he's still able to do. And what he's able to do now, he will always be able to do for the people of faith. So why don't you just trust the Lord today? I know it's difficult. I know it's hard. I know you've got all of these kind of questions. I do, and everybody I know does. But at the end of the day, Gideon trusted God. He put his faith in God, and God brought deliverance for Gideon, his family, and the whole nation of Israel. If he did it for them, just imagine what God will do for you if you will just put your faith in him. Well, hey, I got to get out of here. I look forward to being with you tomorrow on Wednesday's edition of Take 5. Until then, God bless you. Have a great day. And remember, friend, trust the Lord. He will never fail you.